Hello, my name is Pamela Swanson, and today I am honored to present this research on a topic that sits at the intersection of cognitive science, artificial intelligence, AI, and instructional design. I titled this presentation Modality and Redundancy Principles in AI-Enhanced Multimedia Learning. Today, I'll explore Dr. Richard Mayer's cognitive theory of multimedia learning, CTML, with a focus on modality and redundancy in AI integrated multimedia learning. In addition, I'll discuss modality and redundancy principles and how, when aligned with AI enhanced multimedia, learners increase knowledge retention and cognitive synchronization while minimizing cognitive overload. Next, I'll discuss formative assessment, learner engagement, and personalized scaffolding and how they work together to enhance learning in AI-powered multimedia environments. And finally, I'll conclude by synthesizing key findings from the research of several scholarly articles that support the thesis. I'd like to begin by providing an overview of Mayer's cognitive theory of multimedia learning, which serves as a theoretical foundation for this research. CTML is grounded in the idea that people learn more effectively from words and pictures than from words alone, provided that the multimedia is designed in alignment with how the human mind processes information. At the core of CTML is the dual channel assumption, which posits that humans have two separate channels for processing information, one for visual pictorial material and another for auditory verbal material. This means that when instructional content is distributed across both channels, such as using narration alongside visuals, it can reduce extraneous cognitive overload and enhance learning. Another key component of CTML is cognitive load theory, CLT, which emphasizes the limited capacity of working memory. Instructional designers must be careful not to overwhelm learners with too much information at once. Instead, we should try to reduce extraneous cognitive load. That is, unnecessary mental effort caused by poorly designed instructional materials. CTML provides a scientifically grounded framework for designing multimedia instruction, aligning with how people learn. When applied correctly, it can significantly improve learner engagement, retention, and comprehension, especially in AI-enhanced environments where multimedia is abundant. The cognitive load theory, CLT, has significant influence in the field of education psychology. The three forms of cognitive load are intrinsic cognitive load, ICL, extraneous cognitive load, ECL, and germane cognitive load, GCL. The goal of the model is to simplify complex information, reduce learner distractions affecting working memory, and maximize new knowledge by integrating prior knowledge. Digital learning, containing interactions, realism, emotional design, disfluency, and immersion, require learners to increase extraneous load to allow certain forms of germane processing to occur. Thus, digital learning presents challenges for CLT. For this reason, instructional designers must ensure materials are created with learner-centric practices that align with CLT to reduce extraneous cognitive load associated with some design factors. Their particular form of germane processing, and appropriate test types. If not, digital learning, especially when integrated with AI systems and tools, may decrease the benefits of learning. Now let's discuss the modality principle. The modality principle, one of the core components of Mayer's CTML, is extremely important because it states that people learn more effectively from graphics paired with spoken words than from graphics paired with printed text. Spoken words are processed through the auditory channel. Visuals are processed through the visual channel. This method allows learners to use both channels simultaneously without overload, and learners can better integrate and retain information. For example, if a diagram is shown on screen while the narrator explains the concept, the learner can focus on the image without splitting their visual attention between the diagram and the on-screen text. This practice reduces split attention and extraneous cognitive load, which are common barriers to effective learning. However, the modality principle is not universally applicable. It works best when the learner is not already overloaded with auditory information, or when the learning environment is quiet enough to allow for clear listening. In some cases, such as for learners with hearing impairments or if they're in noisy environments, on-screen text may be necessary for adaptive instructional design that considers learners' needs and context. In AI-enhanced multimedia environments, the modality principle can be implemented through features like voice narration, interactive audio feedback, and dynamic voiceover explanations. These tools, when appropriately used, can significantly enhance learner engagement and comprehension by aligning with how the brain naturally processes information. This image shows a good example of the modality principle. The narrator explains the process of precipitation, condensation, and evaporation using graphics paired with spoken word, which provides the learner with an opportunity to use the auditory and the visual channels simultaneously, reducing cognitive overload. This image depicts narration speaking with written material. The narrator is speaking each word verbatim, which is a poor example of the modality principle. The graphics are demanding visual channel attention, and the caption is demanding visual channel attention, causing extraneous cognitive overload, which leads us to discuss the redundancy principle. The redundancy principle states that learning can be hindered when the same information is presented simultaneously in multiple formats, specifically when spoken narration is paired with identical on-screen text, as we just discussed. It may seem good practice to reinforce spoken word with printed text. However, this approach can overload the visual channel of working memory. When the learners are required to process both the visual representation, such as a diagram, and the on-screen text at the same time, they split their visual attention between the two. This split attention effect increases extraneous cognitive load, which can interfere with learning. Instead, CTML recommends pairing spoken narration with visuals, as shown in the good example of the modality principle, allowing learners to process information through both the auditory and the visual channels. This dual channel approach supports better integration of information and reduces the likelihood of overload. The redundancy principle is especially important in multimedia environments where learners are already managing complex visual content. It's important to note that redundancy can serve as a scaffold rather than a barrier for the learner with hearing impairment or in noisy environments. In AI-enhanced learning platforms, designers must be cautious not to default to redundant formats. Instead, they should provide customizable options that allow the learners to choose how they receive information. This aligns with CTML and supports more effective, inclusive learning experiences. In this advanced learner scenario, narration is supported on screen with keywords only. The scene shows a learner watching an instructional video. The keywords photosynthesis, chloroplast, and light energy are bullet pointed on the screen. The narrator is providing the definitions and explaining them through the spoken word. The learner is now more focused on engagement and has minimal visual clutter. This image shows a poor example of the redundancy principle, where the narrator is presenting by spoken word and the terms and definitions are on the screen. The narrator is speaking those words verbatim. This is considered extraneous cognitive load. Now we will explore the formative assessment, learner engagement, and personalized scaffolding. These work together to enhance learning in AI-powered multimedia environments. We begin with formative assessments, which are essential for guiding instruction in real time. As Clark and Mayer 2016 explained, these assessments help learners monitor their progress, identify misconceptions, and adjust their strategies. The AI-enhanced platform is often achieved through adaptive feedback systems that respond immediately to learner input. These tools not only reinforce learning, but also reduce extraneous cognitive load by offering timely, targeted support. Building on assessment, we turn to personalized scaffolding. The instructional supports that help learners bridge the gap between what they can do independently and what they can achieve with guidance. According to Mayer 2021, effective scaffolding is tailored to the learner's current level of understanding and gradually withdrawn as competence increases. In AI-integrated environments, scaffolding can be dynamically adjusted. Systems may modify task difficulty, offer hints, or recommend sources based on real-time performance. This aligns with CTML by managing intrinsic cognitive load, ensuring learners are neither overwhelmed nor under-challenged. Next, we'll consider learner engagement. Learner engagement is amplified when students are given agency in their learning. Learner-centered design, such as allowing students to choose content format or co-created rubrics, fosters motivation, self-regulation, and metacognition. These are crucial for long-term retention and knowledge transfer. However, engagement must be balanced with cognitive efficiency. Overloading learners with redundant or poor structured content can diminish the benefits of even the most engaging tools. Finally, it's important to recognize that success of these strategies depends on thoughtful implementation. If AI tools are rigid or fail to account for the learner's diversity, they may inadvertently increase cognitive load or disengage the learner. Instructional designers must ensure that AI-enhanced multimedia environments are flexible, adaptable, and grounded in evidence-based principles like those outlined in CTML. In summary, formative assessments identify learner needs. Scaffolding provides the support to meet those needs, and engagement ensures learners remain motivated and invested. Together, these elements create a powerful, personalized learning experience, especially when supported by AI and aligned with cognitive science. To fully realize the benefits of AI-enhanced multimedia learning, we must address one of the most critical but often overlooked design elements. We just mentioned it, scaffolding. When thoughtfully applied, scaffolding transforms redundancy from a cognitive burden to a strategic support system. It promotes meaningful learning, particularly when paired with understanding of the learner's prior knowledge. CTML introduces the pre-training principle, which states that learners perform better when they are familiar with key concepts before instruction begins. This principle operates on the premise that learners do not enter multimedia experiences as blank slates. Rather, they bring varied levels of background knowledge, misconceptions, and processing capacities to each learning experience. AI-empowered learning environments have a unique advantage here. By using diagnostics assessments for learning analytics to detect what a learner already knows, systems can activate relevant prior knowledge before introducing more complex ideas. This supports the construction of mental models and primes the cognitive system for efficient integration of new materials. Let's break down why this matters. Pre-training acts like a cognitive on-ramp, equipping learners with the essential vocabulary, definitions, and conceptual frameworks needed to navigate new topics. This activation enhances schema development and improves efficiency of encoding new information. For reducing cognitive load, without pre-training, learners are often forced to juggle decoding unfamiliar terms while trying to understand advanced material. This overwhelms working memory. However, Liao 2024 found that learners who received structured pre-training showed significantly lower cognitive load scores and retained content at higher rates than those who did not, promoting deeper learning. When new content aligns with what learners already know, they are more likely to engage in meaningful learning, the type that allows them to connect, apply, and transfer the knowledge. This form of integration leads to deeper cognitive processing, longer retention, and improved task performance. In AI-enhanced systems, scaffolding can be dynamic. For example, learners who struggle with a pre-assessment could automatically be routed to simplified modules or given interactive glossaries. Others who demonstrate mastery could skip ahead, preventing disengagement, preserving cognitive energy. In summary, effective instructional design must begin with an intentional effort to assess and activate learners' prior knowledge. Doing so scaffolds the learning experience, reduces unnecessary strain on cognitive resources, and lays the groundwork for higher order thinking and sustained knowledge retention. As we progress forward into intelligent and responsive learning environments, it becomes essential to explore how the principles of modality and redundancy interact, not in isolation, but as an integrated design strategy. Optimal learning occurs when we leverage the dual channel processing system as discussed earlier, while minimizing extraneous cognitive load and promoting the germane processing. However, the challenge for instructional designers is not merely applying each principle independently, but balancing them together in a way that supports efficient cognitive flow. This is where AI becomes a transformative partner for the instructional designer. AI can analyze real-time learner data, such as pacing, engagement, quiz results, and even clickstream behaviors, to dynamically adapt how content is delivered. This means AI systems can determine when to use narration instead of text, when redundancy reinforces learning, and when it becomes a source of overload. This adaptive functionality aligns with Liao 2024, described as neuro-aligned instructional modulation. The ability to match content delivery with each learner's cognitive state and sensory preference, supported by data. What we're seeing is the evolution of instructional design from static course development to responsive evidence-based personalization. By integrating modality and redundancy with AI, we are not just making learning more engaging. We are ensuring it is more inclusive, efficient, and neurologically sound. In the next section, we'll examine how this integration unfolds in practice, specifically how AI reduces cognitive load, supports personalization content delivery, and enhances scaffolding across complex learning paths. Remember, the goal is not simply to add AI, but to strategically align it with sound instructional framework. Artificial intelligence is fundamentally reshaping how we apply modality principles in multimedia learning environments. Learners retain information more effectively when graphics are paired with narration. We've covered that. Rather than redundant on-screen text. However, as we know, not all learners benefit equally from the same modality configuration. This is where AI becomes a strategic differentiator. By analyzing real-time learning analysis, such as response patterns, interaction times, and navigation behavior, AI systems can tailor the mode of content delivery to the learner's cognitive profile. In fact, an AI assistant called Connect can authenticate learners and dynamically adjust instructional delivery to optimize comprehension and engagement. For example, a learner experiencing auditory processing challenges may benefit from visual reinforcement via on-screen keywords, aligning with the signaling principle of the 12 principles of CTML, but without inducing cognitive overload through redundancy. Meanwhile, another learner may achieve better retention through pure audio-visual narration, entirely bypassing the text. AI enables both of these learners to receive the right modality at the right time. Learner-centered, tech-enhanced environments is exactly what AI delivers. It dynamically adjusts pacing, presentation format, and even scaffolding, such as offering optional transcripts or stepwise narration based on how learners interact with the content. AI-generated data provides educators with a powerful insight to fine-tune instructional design. This includes modulating visual complexity pacing and interactivity, all of which directly support cognitive load theory. In essence, AI does more than deliver multimedia content. It curates, evaluates, and continuously evolves it based on real-time cognitive and behavioral feedback. This ensures our use of modality and redundancy principles is not only scientifically grounded, but highly adaptive and learner-centered. One of AI's most transformative capabilities in multimedia learning environments is its potential to mitigate cognitive overload, a core tenet of Mayer's cognitive theory of multimedia learning. Cognitive overload occurs when the learner's working memory is overwhelmed with excess or poorly organized information, reducing the ability to process, encode, and retain knowledge effectively. AI addresses this challenge by continuously analyzing learner interaction data, such as time spent on task, error patterns, and navigational behaviors to dynamically adapt content delivery. For example, learners struggling with particular concepts may be shown only essential materials, weeding extraneous load, while proficient learners may receive scaffolded extensions. Hassan 2025 reported that AI-supported modules reduced dropout rate in complex online learning environments by 18%, largely due to intelligent filtering that prioritized relevant instructional cues. AI personalized pacing helped learners maintain high neural engagement and task focus, avoiding spikes in mental fatigue that typically accompany redundant or irrelevant content. By acting as an intelligent gatekeeper, AI tailors the sequence, volume, and modality of information to suit individual cognitive thresholds. This enhances learning fluency, sustains attention, and most importantly, allows for efficient schema construction, a cornerstone of long-term knowledge transfer. As we bring our exploration of modality and redundancy principles to a close, let's shift the focus toward the future, specifically the research questions, innovations, and ethical considerations that will define the next chapter of multimedia learning in AI-enhanced environments. An important line of inquiry centers around how AI can responsibly personalize multimedia content without violating CTML. Presenting the same content through both narration and text, we know causes cognitive overload. However, AI offers the potential to detect when redundant delivery might actually support certain learners, such as English as a Second Language ESL students, neurodiverse learners, or individuals with auditory processing difficulties. Future research must examine how AI can intelligently toggle modality combinations based on real-time learner data without breaching CTML boundaries. We must study learner agency in controlling redundancy. The value of learner-centered design, particularly in distance learning environments, should learners be able to toggle captions, choose simplified narration, or enable full transcripts? While this promotes autonomy, it also risks disrupting instructional coherence. Future research should explore where the balance lies between personal control and cognitive structure. As tools like Connect Platform evolve to incorporate biometric data, such as eye tracking or facial expression, to verify engagement, we must explore how these signals can be ethically and effectively used to personalize content. Such adaptations may align with CTML's contiguity and signaling principles, but emphasizes that transparency and ethical design are critical. Research must investigate how much biometric adaptation enhances learning and at what point it crosses into privacy concerns or manipulation. The role of scaffolding in multimedia environments deserves more attention. Interactive narrated modules improve functional cognition, but only when properly scaffolded. Future studies should analyze how to balance visual simplification, audio guidance, and learner pacing, particularly for students with executive function challenges or attention deficits. There is a pressing need for cross-cultural and linguistic research. We must study long-term retention and transfer. Much of the current multimedia learning literature focuses on immediate performance. The real measure of effective instruction lies in whether learners can retain and transfer the knowledge. AI-supported customization shows promise, but does reducing redundancy or optimizing modality actually improve long-term learning outcomes? That remains an open critical question. Future research must go beyond short-term gains and explore how AI can ethically, inclusively, and sustainably enhance cognitive learning environments. The answers we pursue will shape not just the future of instructional design, but the very nature of human learning in a digital age. In conclusion, we will synthesize the key findings from the research on modality and redundancy principles within AI-enhanced multimedia environments. The cognitive theory of multimedia learning provides a framework for designing instruction that aligns with how learners process information. When applied effectively, the modality principle supports dual-channel processing, while the redundancy principle helps avoid cognitive overload. The research emphasizes that instructional designers must consider learner variability, such as prior knowledge and learning preferences. When applying these principles, the research emphasizes that instructional designers must consider learner variability, such as prior knowledge and learner preferences, when applying these principles. AI tools offer potential for personalization and adaptive scaffolding, but only when designed to align with CTML. Systems that default to redundant formats or lack customization risk undermining learning outcomes. The presentation concludes that the learner-centered design, supported by formative assessments and flexible AI integration, is essential for optimizing cognitive efficiency. Future research should investigate how scalable AI systems can be developed to support diverse learners while maintaining instructional integrity.